Howdy ho ho, my good humans. How the hell are you doing this unnecessary rambling? I'm Brandon Sylvia, joined by Loon, here to discuss a juggernaut of a showcase. Holy fucking shit, man. Definitely the best showcase of the not E3 season, the Summer Game Fest season, whatever we're calling it. At least in my opinion, it's not even close. In my opinion, I've watched the majority of the other showcases. This was the best one by a country mile. How are you feeling right now, Loon? We're immediately coming in hot off the show. How are you feeling after watching that Xbox 2024 showcase?
Yeah, that was really, really strong. Really strong. I wrote on the very top of the list. I had a shit-eating grin on my face the entire showcase because it was that good.
Yeah,
And towards the end of the show, I kind of had like the full process of, wow, is this what it feels like to actually like look forward to like showcases? Because usually the Xbox doesn't give much. Like we get a few dubs here and there, but this was a showcase in which I think of all the things I've listed, there's maybe arguably two misses, and that is it in a over 1 hour showcase. Like that's insane.
totally agree. So I'll lead in with this because I want to provide a grade for the showcase. I like doing that. I think it's fun. It's a silly little game. For me, this is up there with one of the greatest showcases I've ever seen in my life. Like, no doubt about it. There are, there's really one, maybe two reasons it would knock back a little bit from that top tier of like all-time greats. Like, I have a couple showcases in mind that I would put ahead of it, but this is up there, man. So for me, I'm saying a solid A, and I guess I'll go ahead and get into it. The only reason I wouldn't say an A plus is because of the lack of like concrete release dates. That would be the
Yeah,
only my only knock on the entire showcase. And one game that I thought looked like utter dog shit that we'll get into in a little bit. But I mean, other than those minute complaints, this was a home run, best showcase that I've seen in years.
yeah, no, for sure. Me too. It would probably be from a 10 from me. It was a 10 up until one game showed, and then it knocked it a little bit more when they said about the digital only Series X. And I was like,
Yeah.
I kind of groaned at the end there. I was like, that knocks it down a little peg. But everything else was a win for me.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and jump into this one by one, talk about each game and move through these bad boys. And we're not gonna. I should be clear. We'll talk about the majority of the game shown. There were a few things like expansions, updates. I just, we're not gonna try to make this a 3 hour show. Gonna try to keep this concise. So I tried to only showcase the heavy hitters, which there are a lot to go through. So starting off with Call of Duty, opening the show. The narrative looks really interesting here. It's post Cold War 90s. Um, Obviously a 25-minute deep dive post show. It's coming to Game Pass day one. This will be my first ever Call of Duty game that I've ever played in my life, and I will be playing it. It's launching October 25th. And yeah, if it wasn't coming day one to Game Pass, would I be playing this? No. But you see it on the motorcycle and shit, like it had a kind of looked like it had a pretty strong campaign there. So I'm hoping that I can get maybe a 6 hour good first person shooter campaign.
I think 6 hours might be pushing it.
Too
Um,
much.
yeah, the last game that they dropped was like, I think people trickled in like on average about 4 hours, I believe. I didn't play it, so I'm not really too hot on Treyarch Call of Duties. But yeah, it just looks like this isn't a knock against it. It looks like the polish that we are used to since Modern Warfare 2019. Like they're very, very pushing cinematic, realistic set pieces and stuff, and just making everything look really crisp and clean.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it looks really strong, and the fact that they were pushing the story as hard as they were, like, okay, you caught my attention. If it wasn't coming to Game Pass, like I said, I wouldn't be there checking it out. October 25th, though, I shall give it a look. But if we're really talking about what opened the show in a big like punch to the gut, hey, I'm here. Knock, knock, open up the door. It's real. Fucking just immediately, holy shit moment. Doom, the Dark Ages coming 2025. You see a fucking flying dragon in this trailer. You're flying around on a dragon, or I think that's gameplay of you flying around on a dragon. Looked so damn good. We got a good, somewhat in-depth look at gameplay. The little boomerang shield out that bitch like Captain America, but fucking slicing through demon heads and shit. Yeah, it's coming to Game Pass and PC and PlayStation 5 2025.
Yeah, and the other thing was meant that was obviously the first of the world premieres. They ended up because I ended up writing down how many they had in total. There was eight in total. That's a lot of like first shown world premieres. And I don't like to jump like back and forth, but you talk about Captain America. What that felt like was it was very thematic because the last thing they showed in the show was Gears of War, right?
Yeah.
That gave me Lancer, OG Lancer vibes on that shield. So
Yeah.
it completely thematically like held like did an entire circle with the showcase. It was like, you know, this has like Gears of War like vibes almost with that, and then it closed off with it. And I thought that was a really, really cool touch.
Yeah. So definitely I think we're both on board for Doom diving
Yep.
in 2025. No specific release date given for it. And the same thing continues here with the no specific release date for State of Decay 3. I was just shocked that this showed up at all. Character models looked way better than I expected. Gameplay looked tighter, a bit more over the shoulder, opposed to the not top down, but somewhere in that realm between over the shoulder and top down with the other State of Decay games. This looked like a more crunchy, visceral style of combat. We didn't get much gameplay at all, really. No release date once again. I worry a little bit about that because we saw it for the first time in 2020 with that cinematic trailer, and at least we
Yeah.
know that it's still in the works. It hasn't been scrapped. It hasn't been canceled, anything like that. And I mean, after the success of Helldivers 2, I think that there is an audience for people wanting to get together and play service-based game and be working alongside one another instead of against one another. So I think it's prime time for this to release, but I feel like we still probably have a ways to go.
Yeah, it's shocking that has no release date, considering how long we've known with it being in like the pipeline. It looks stronger, but it also looks again just that little bit off. Considering a lot of people compare this to like it never it was or is going to be this, but they compare it to like Xbox's like Last of Us almost.
Oh yeah, it's not
And
fair.
like it's never gonna hit on any of them calibers as good as The Last of Us did. But this it looks a lot better what we had originally saw.
Yeah, well, and it's not even trying to be The Last of Us. So I that's not a fair comparison to me whatsoever. It's doing, I would say honestly, more Helldivers. Like if it
Yeah.
can be that level of polish and that level of quality with the third person shooting and shit, also combining in the survival horror like traditional elements of crafting and all of that shit where you're just trying to survive. If they can keep that intact, and then we also know, it's coming to UE5. Collision went in and helped with their progression transition over to UE5. So if it can be a really, really solid one of those style of games, which I mean, State of Decay was already a hit. So like I think there is an audience yearning for this, but I just, like you said, something feels a little bit off.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, Dragon Age Veilguard.
Hmm.
Uh
A
yeah.
rename, and their reasoning was they didn't want to focus on the villain. They wanted to focus on the heroes, which, eh,
Loon,
okay.
I'm gonna be real with you, man. Said it's coming fall 2024. Aesthetically, this looked like shit to me.
Did it?
I the character models looked horrendous in my opinion. Looked so cartoony, just like goofy. I don't know. We're gonna get gameplay June 11th, so we only got a couple days. So I'm gonna reserve my judgment until then. This might have just been a weird fucking cinematic glimpse at the game that really
I
doesn't.
I don't think it is. I think it's following in the footsteps of the way the art went down the road in Inquisition.
Inquisition. Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit more happy for it. It's nice to see Old Man Varric in there and Scout Harding from Inquisition. Um, some of the companions which they were showing off looked a little bit, like you said, not too sold on the way they look, but that's just their art style that they're going down. So I'm sure when it all comes together, if it's all consistent in that tone, then it'll be a lot easier to swallow. But if these things stick out, then it'll be a lot harder for that. But I don't know. I'm still not sold on like the as good as the showcase is. It was either no release dates or very vague release dates. Like a few
Yeah.
games got like solid locked in. I don't see this launching full
Yeah.
because it's so close to that. You would just lock in a date. Like it
Right.
just doesn't make sense. Like
And
if the likes of Alan Wake 2 is locking in dates like for October this far in advance and stuff, then you guys should be doing it now. This is like the cutoff point. This was it, and they didn't give us a date.
unless they show that at the June 11th, whenever they have their full like 15-minute gameplay trailer, unless that I don't
Mm,
know why they would save the date for that,
exactly. Yeah,
but
because
yeah,
you'd think like Microsoft would muscle that date out of them and be like, "Come on, guys." So,
yeah. But we did get that nice Bowie cover, had heroes in there playing in the background, so I don't know, just like I know it's not going to be co-op, but that trailer made it feel like it was going to be a co-op game. Like why
I mean,
even
Inquisition
possible?
had co-op. It had a
Yeah.
co-op mode entirely, so they may be tagging that on
I
again.
thought that the director came out and said it is strictly single player. I'm pretty sure that the director came out and was like, no, this is single player, 100%
I
single player,
think
but
if I
we'll see.
remember as well, they said the same thing about Inquisition, and then that
Mm,
ended up. May correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it had multiplayer on the 360 ports. I think it was a update down the line for the next gen.
yeah.
So
We had Starfield Shattered Space. We're getting the House of Varun story. I'm so down for this. It looks like a fucking ultra horror version of Starfield with obviously the House of Varun, the lore there. Like it's so disturbing and creepy, and cult like. So
mm.
I wanted to explore that a lot more in the base game, but I will be doing that in the update, and it's coming this year along with the creation kit, so you can do some good old modding.
Yeah, that creation kit's available now,
Oh,
right this
nice,
second.
nice.
That's what they said launches today. Some bounty hunter thing, I can't remember the name of it, and then the Creation Club, I believe, launches today. And I'm right there with you because as much as I was like fairly cold on Starfield, they had that section where you walk through the museum, and it's kind of
Yeah,
like, did you ever do that? And it unfolded all the lore that really should have been implemented in the game more
yeah.
than anything. But it was like, okay, cool. And then they show that faction, and it shows such significance, and then there's no presence at all in the game of them, and it was just
Yeah,
like, all right, this is a given. You're going to give them a DLC, but like they're the coolest sounding faction, guys.
without a
This
doubt.
that if you would have given us this chunk in the game and given us like an entire like system of like horror, like a Dead Space vibe, like an entire system and stuff like that would have propelled this game big
Yeah.
time.
Well, I wifed up the lady Andrasia, I
Mm.
believe, in Starfield, who's from that, backstory. So I got like a bunch of little tidbits of information just by roaming around with her and shit. And yeah, I'm so
You gave
excited
her
for
your great serpent. How kind of you.
absolutely. She was bad as hell. Um, Expedition 33. I thought this looked dope as shit. It's a turn-based
Yeah.
RPG and maybe some sort of hybrid of action in there. It looked kind of like QTE centric at certain points, which I thought was kind of endearing in some weird way. I was like, oh wow. I haven't seen a good old QTE like this that was just straight up button mashing in years. I don't know. This just looked fucking really cool, man. Coming to Game Pass 2025. Very, very good character models, story centric, great visuals. Yeah.
This is them looking at Atlas and being like, this shit's popular, guys. Metaphor coming out, obviously, SMT coming out, and that Persona 3 Reload launching earlier in the year. They're like, let's get us some of this for ourselves. And it did. It looks so good. It looks
Yeah.
so good.
I do find the name weird because we got 33 Immortals coming and Expedition 33, both to Game Pass. So it's like, what the hell y'all got going on with 33? But
But
yeah,
that was
yeah.
that kind of reminds me, what was it? The Outer Wilds and the Outer
Outer
Worlds getting
Worlds.
confused, and that was like, oh God, guys, we really shouldn't be doing this again.
I don't know if you
Shouldn't be
saw it, but
stepping on
that's like
toes.
just saw it and Carrion, not
Mm,
in terms of name, but it's exact same mountain climbing style of gameplay. I'm like, right after one another, that's a horrible idea. But hey, you can't when you're in development, it's not like you know what everybody else is working on.
yeah,
Um, South of Midnight, dude. This was my game of the show when this was revealed. It didn't end up being my game of the show, but when it was revealed, it was my game of the show. I had such bottom of the barrel low expectations. No, shade at compulsion, but I think they make really great trailers and okay games usually.
yeah,
And this because that first trailer, the stop motiony aesthetic, the bayou, the monster hunting, like all of that was being showcased in that first trailer, I was like, okay, let's see if you can really deliver. This is a full on open world game with a fucking grappling hook, Uncharted esque climbing mechanics, real time, super quick action combat, battling these big ass monsters. The animation looks great, the stop motion sort of aesthetic in the cutscenes, but then going into full real time third person, combat and movement when you're in the world. Like this looks tremendous, man. Absolutely tremendous. This is what I want. When a big publisher goes out and acquires a team and they see the potential in that team, but they know the team needs more resources to fully reach that
yeah,
potential. This is what you get. Fuck yeah, Compulsion. I am pumped for South of Midnight. Looks excellent, in my opinion.
yeah. I'm a little bit less. I'm hot on it. I'm not as hot. The cutscenes to me are very distracting in the way the design is. For me personally, that's just a personal,
The
taste.
stop motion stuff.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does not for me. And I was very worried because if it was going to transition into gameplay, there was no way I was going to sit there and play with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because there was that, what was that game that came out last year, like Clash or something?
Oh, yep, yep, yep. Yep.
And I think it pulled that into gameplay as well. And it was very, very jarring and
Third person
distracting.
action game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hope it doesn't follow that. And it doesn't appear. It also seems to lack a lot of fat as well. Like they got straight to the point. Like it,
Right.
I don't know if I would go as far as saying open world for me personally. I think it's more. It feels a lot more like Evil West,
Right. Hub
and
levels.
just get to the point. Like give a little bit of exploration, but let's not waste the player's time.
Yeah. I guess I should say more open zone because like you see her gliding around, flying with
Mm,
her glider and shit. So there's obviously range of exploration on offer, but yeah, you're right. It did seem like she was kind of getting to where she wanted to go and not really lingering and having to mark shit on the map and go 800 meters over there. And like, yeah. So it did seem to remove a lot of that fat, which is great, keeping some of that double A sensibility intact, but
yeah,
with, full funding now by a behemoth of a company. Um, yeah, man, looks great in my opinion. This was my favorite reveal of the show at this point. But we got something later that, whoo, whoo, boy. And then well, we'll get to it. It's only a couple away.
I think I
Metal,
know what you're talking about as well because it fucking blew me away. I was like, holy shit.
like what? Yeah, we'll get to it. Next up, we got Metal Gear Solid 3, the remake. Looks pretty solid, not bad at all. Um, I wasn't sure because Virtua Studios, the developer, not a behemoth, not like a AAA. Yeah, they haven't really produced a bunch in the AAA space, so I was like, okay, let's see what the studio has. My expectations weren't high, But
Yeah.
everything I've seen for this, the in-game trailer that we got a few months back, this trailer, like they're gonna hit this. They're gonna nail this. It looks to be like a perfect modernization of that game. It doesn't seem like they're going too far like RE2, where I don't mean too far in a negative way. Like it
Too
it's
far in
not,
modernizing it and making
yeah,
it not anything like the original. Because you can put Resident Evil 2's original side by side with the remake, and it has similarities, but the core foundation is completely changed.
yeah,
Whereas this feels very, very much like it's keeping to the, small scale environments and stuff like that. I'm a lot more hot on it than you, I think. It looks so clean. It also helps because I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 5. And the thing that always blew me away is that in Ground Zeroes, they had like these animations that never made it to the full game. They had these like transition animations that looked so much better, and they didn't end up utilizing them, and it looks like they're pulling them and going above and beyond to make them even better in that. Because I don't know if you saw some of the movement animate, they do look so good, look so good. But negative, no date.
yep. It's
What the
2025.
what the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
what is taking this thing so long? Like, I get, it looks clean and it's gonna take a lot, but like this really felt like with how much they showed, that would be like an October, November drop. It looks
yeah.
finished.
And it was supposed to come out 2024, so I'm thinking this slipped. Um, but hey, I I think it's smart on Xbox's part to get behind this because
Hmm.
PlayStation was really trying to make this look like an exclusive. So go ahead and make it bold, make it clear. Now this shit's coming. This shit's coming to Xbox. Don't you worry your pretty little mind. Flintlock finally got a release date for this July 18th. Saw it a couple years ago. I didn't think it looked incredible back then. I don't think it looks incredible now. Another Souls-like game. But you do have magical powers and shit going on. And then, yeah, it's coming to Game Pass. Like I said, July 18th. Depends on what I'm playing at the time. If I end up, having the time to slot this in. Souls games are very low down on the totem pole for me in terms of like, if I just have nothing else to play and it's there,
Yeah,
sure, but probably not.
I'll I'll give it a bit more of a bone than that. With it being from Ashen, the creators
Yep.
of Ashen, it's a hell of a lot more probably accessible than most of them. Like
Cool.
Ashen was so it was a Souls-like, yes. And if you decided that, oh, I'm just going to beeline it straight to the very end zone because it had like this very long, stretchy map, then yeah, you would get your teeth kicked in. But it incorporated story really well, and I'm hoping that's what they
Oh,
can kind of
okay.
bring over because it had like a whole hub world that you built up, NPCs you ran into, and as you progressed, like things would change and stuff. That was really cool. So,
Yeah. And I saw you flying around the open world and shit. And like I said,
yeah,
magical powers, guns. So like they at least have something that makes it not the
it's so
same
much
exact
more of a
thing.
budget step up, is what it feels like, because it didn't have any of them things in Ashen. Ashen was very, very minimalistic, is the word I'll use. Yeah.
Uh, All right. You ready to get to my game of the show?
Yep, I already know. Oh my
Ooh.
God.
Uh I'm gonna say this right now. The initiative, fucking Crystal Dynamics. I'm sorry.
Sorry we doubted you, man.
I
Fucking
am
crap. Take as long as you want.
you won't hear another word out of me. Like I promise you that. This I, like I don't even know where to begin. It looked like Deus Ex.
That's the immediate thing I wrote down, dude. I was
Yes.
like, Deus Ex? Hello? And I was like, oh no, of course, Perfect Dark is in development. Where have you been?
Dude, I mean, you got boots on the ground detective work, dying light-esque parkour. Like she took a fucking leap, ran across the side of that wall, grabbed onto a pipe, shimmied up the top of a roof, gets on
Yep.
the ground doing detective work, scanning, popping up with the gun, and bow, blast a motherfucker, coming into a counter, which it seems like you actually have control of the counter system, where it felt like crunchy. The
Mm.
enemy came in, she parried at the perfect time, whipped his arm back, hit him with an elbow. I'm out that bitch feeling like I'm about to another analogy that I can't come up with. I'm
One day, one day.
Dude, hit me,
See,
Lil.
Mirror's
What you
Edge, you
thinking?
can do parkour combat.
Yeah,
See, you can make it crunchy. You don't have to make it feel like shit. God damn.
hit me,
Man,
dude. What you
that's
thinking?
it. It's them screaming that they want to make a Deus Ex game. This is Crystal Dynamics screaming at the top of their lungs, like, you're not letting us make it. So whatever we get next as a project, we're gonna put as much DNA in it to generate as much interest and get us back to what we want to make. And that is exactly what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because I never played Perfect Dark. I shouldn't say that. I played about 15 minutes of Perfect Dark Zero, and look, I'm sorry if you like. It's supposedly a title that was like big back in the day. It did nothing for me back in like whatever it was, 2009 when I played it. I haven't played it recently, but even like looking at it doesn't look all that special. This does look special. This looks exactly like what Xbox needs to be landing on. With this level of quality from these teams, that is what we need.
Well, and like Perfect Dark is known for its multiplayer. So that's the thing I'm really curious about because this seemed ultra narrative driven. Like
There's
really,
no
really,
way you can incorporate multiplayer into this the way
that
it
would be
plays.
tough.
If Cyberpunk had to scrap it, there's no way Perfect Dark.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you're sliding into an enemy's knee, taking them out. Like it just, this looked so good. It had that ultra spooky kind of, shouldn't say ultra spooky, but that slightly spooky kind of sci-fi cut at
Yeah,
the end of the trailer there. It just, yeah, it seems
just
very,
a
very,
drop of intrigue in the, the kind of vanilla sci-fi-esque setting of what you'd probably expect. And it was just like, hold on, there's a little bit more under the surface, guys. Don't worry.
yeah.
It's like, hell yeah, man. Give it to me.
And like you said, dude, I would kill to see Crystal Dynamics version of a Deus Ex game, have them partner with Eidos. I mean, they're under the same umbrella. Fucking
Fucking go
absolutely.
knock on Amazon's door. They'll give you whatever money you want.
Hey,
It's
they're funding Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raider game, so
exactly.
might as well fund Eidos's Deus Ex game and have Crystal Dynamics work on it with them. But yeah, this looked incredible. It seems like the rumors of a Perfect Dark being in a bad state. I don't know about that. I mean, it could have been, but they're on to something right now. This is my game of the show. Have we got to your game of the show yet?
I'm not gonna lie, there's so many of them. Let me while you talk about the next one. I'll have a
Yeah. So the next game we got, or that I have on the list here that was, notable, Fable.
mm,
Dude, one of the most impressive looking games I've ever seen in my life from a world environment standpoint, from a character model standpoint. I once again, my reasoning for knocking this show down from an A plus to an A, this is a big reason. Why are they so hesitant to show Fable's combat? We got a quick little glimpse, but man, that starts to worry me. There's some things that needs to be shown with this trailer that just aren't being shown for this game.
yeah.
Character customization, dialogue options, combat. Circle those three things, Playground. The next time we see this game, show all the motherfuckers. It's coming 2025 supposedly. I I don't know, man. It like I said, top tier character models and world environments. But like we talked about earlier, something feels a little off here.
Yeah, the thing I wrote down is it seems very self-aware and poking fun at itself. So like they've looked back at what Fable had as like a setting and they seem to understand the setting. But like you said, that's all they've shown us.
Yeah.
So there's the whole, oh, heroes and everything, and everybody, they poke fun at each other and themselves, and the weird, fanaticism of the townsfolk of like, I'm your number one fan. I'm your fan, but I hate a fan. I have a hate club for you guys. So like there's that, and that's like, yeah, that's cool. But like you said, there's no combat being shown,
There
which
was a little bit, but not much.
not enough to really, to gauge an opinion on it. Like
No.
there's so little, and that is a big worry because like as much as I loved Fable 3, the combat in all three of them games was never like stand out. It was just there. It was very, very simplistic. So I think that's why they're hesitant on it. It's probably a lot harder to make it feel good. Because I think that's what we're running into in this age of gaming, like making combat feel not only crunchy, but you need to have it stand out as well, so that everything doesn't feel the same. And I think that's probably what they're running into and why they're so hesitant on it.
Yeah, makes sense, man. That 2025 date, you have faith in that?
No,
I don't either.
I
Do
don't
not
have faith in
either.
anything that isn't getting in any release dates.
Yeah, and we'll get into more of that because that trend kind of continues a little bit. Um, but next up, I was wondering if this might be your game of the show. From a Mixtape from the Artful Escape developer, Beethoven and Dinosaur. This,
Oh, it's not my game of the show, but man, it is good. It is
yeah,
so good.
like top shelf, man. This is close for me. This is close for my game of the show. And I told you before, but I've been putting together a tier list and I'm grabbing all these different games, like the big ones, and putting it into a tier list. I'd love to go through and rank them with you and then like have
Mhm.
a, you down for that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Shit, yeah, that'll be fun. But I'm definitely gonna throw this one in there. And yeah, it's up there for me. It's around like top three, top five games that were shown here for sure. It's just such a strong
Mm.
showcase that it's hard to really, yeah, it's hard to be number one on that list. But yeah, published by Annapurna. So Beethoven and Dinosaur, Artful Escape developer, incredible game, and they just captured a vibe on a different level with this trailer. It seems like late 80s, maybe early 90s aesthetic here, and just a happy kind of summertime feel. You're skateboarding around, cruising in the car with your buddies. Has some light fantastical elements going on in there, like you're floating around and
Just
shit.
just exactly like the Artful Escape.
Right.
Like, not to take the wind out of its sails, it just feels like a lot more grounded, higher budget version of the Artful Escape. This is a developer, and it's why it's so special to me is because they understand the importance of music. And I've said this time and time again on here, like how important music is to me when playing games. Like that is one of the most impactful things. If you can make a soundtrack that can stick a moment even harder than it already does, that will forever like be pinned into your mind. So I
Yeah.
can't wait for it. It's so, so good.
And it had like Smashing Pumpkins on there.
Yeah.
It had a few other bands that I can't remember off the top of my head, but like had some notable bands from that. I think Iggy Pop was on there as well. So some definitely leaning into that late 80s or even just 80s into the 90s vibe there with the music and the aesthetic. And next up, kind of staying in that same vein of adventure game, we got the new Life is Strange titled Double Exposure coming October 2024. I gotta play through these fucking games, man. I gotta jump in and finally play through these games. And yeah, it seems like you're swapping between like different timelines to stop some murder from happening, which I love the fucking
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's picking up after the first game, so it's kind of hard to like talk about it without, I guess, spoiling it. Um, because my understanding was they did the spin-off game, which was Before the Storm, which also tied into the first game, and then they kind of did like the follow-up games after that, which were like completely separate experiences, and this seems to be them going back to the, you know, square one and bring back characters and stuff. Um, it's a series that's very divided though. Like the writing either lands with you or it really doesn't in the first game, I've heard. Personally, it never stuck with me. It didn't draw me in like the Telltale games did. But yeah, no, I think they're good games,
Yeah.
and it may give me that kick as well, in the same vein as you to, you know, maybe give them another, like for me, give them another chance and maybe finish them up.
Well, I loved the Forgotten City so much. The time looping murder mystery angle kind of seems to be present in here as it was in there. And then this, I would imagine, even leans into the decision making a bit more. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping this really, really clicks with me. Coming October 2024. And next up, we have another game that's coming in 2024, but we do not know the exact date. Indiana Jones. Got a great look at the story here, showing off pretty lengthy cutscene. Uh, Shows Indiana Jones in third person the entire time for the cutscene, which I think is important. Let people know, okay, hey, yeah, you do play in first person, but at least the story is all you see Indiana Jones the entire time. I think that is really important. I don't want to have a cyberpunk sort of vibe where I'm looking at the world and interacting with the story that way. I want to see
Yep.
Indiana
No, they
Jones.
they they knew that because my God, the writing is so good.
It's
Choo
so good.
choo, choo choo. Like taking the piss out of the cartoons and everything. It was just because I was hesitant, I won't lie. When it first got announced, it was like Indiana Jones, really? Because like the past few movies have been like in the nicest possible way bad.
Yeah.
Like to not go too hard on them. Like the original films were really, really good. It's a really good series. And it was just like a sigh when I saw that they had announced it, and it was just like, I'd really rather you guys just work on a Wolfenstein and not waste time on this." I'll give him a shot. The writing looks so damn good,
Yeah.
so I'm all for it. It has such good comedic timing with the stuff, like the whole cutscene that played out. It was stakes are high, and then little chuckle. Stakes are
Yep.
high, little chuckle, and it was just like, okay, yeah, this is like Lucas films at their peak, like when they used to do that stuff. So you clearly know what you're doing. Again, much like Perfect Dark, I'll just shut up about it now and just let you guys cook.
Yeah. Perfect tone. Um, Hey dude, are you a fan of the Bad Boys movies? I think we talked about this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I just went and saw the latest one in theaters. Dude, fucking loved it. But I'm so biased, beyond biased. I was just thinking about that when you're talking about the latest Indiana Jones movies, because I know a lot of people aren't liking the Bad Boys movies. I'm like, this pulpy sort of action, this style of like over the top, crazy, nonsensical action, like it is, I love that brand of humor,
Mm.
this style of just not B movie because it's not a B movie, but like this style of over the top action just speaks to me so much. But no
A
specific
little bit
release
of
date.
a
Go ahead.
little bit of trivia on that, sorry, before we move on. You know the first Bad Boys movie was like entirely improvised. It didn't have like a traditional script. The whole movie was improvised. It's why it took so long for them to make Bad Boys 2 because they had to make it, scripted.
That's interesting because Martin Lawrence was the executive producer, right? And he
Mm.
ended up calling Will Smith and being like, "Hey, I need you for this fucking movie." And Will Smith was like, "Okay, well, send me the script." And Martin Lawrence was like, "I ain't got that yet."
Yeah.
So
They
yeah,
off the domed all, and that's why it felt so natural and fucking stupid at some of them points, but it made it funny. It just made it
maybe
funny.
maybe the best chemistry ever between two co-stars. Like it's up there. It is top tier
Oh
chemistry.
no, second place.
What you got, Rush
You
Hour?
can't. Come on, man. Yeah, Chris Tucker and fucking Jackie Chan. You can't second place them.
Dude, we'll get into it at a different time. There's moments between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith that's like because when you line them all up and the callbacks and like I don't know, it's close. It's close for sure. I'm such a sucker for Bad Boys, so I can't even sit here and make like a rational argument. But to Indiana Jones, no specific date. Still just
Yeah,
saying
madness.
2024.
Fucking madness. It's not landing 2024.
Yeah.
Again, the same reasoning I used for drawing a blank. What was the game that we said?
Earlier we were talking about State of Decay.
Dragon Age
Oh, Dragon
being
Age.
full 2024. Neither of them are coming this year because it just makes no sense to sit on the date for even longer. And maybe for Indiana Jones they can get away with it though, looking at it from the rationale of with it launching into day one Game Pass, they could just fucking wait until like the final week of December and just be
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's dropping now, and then everyone be like, oh sweet, day one Game Pass, and just go straight in. So I guess they have that as like a get out of jail free card, but you'd want to generate as much hype for this as possible and build up, surely.
One thing I will say though, and you're gonna call me crazy. I weirdly have a feeling out of the two that Dragon Age is more likely to come out this year than Indiana Jones. I know that sounds crazy, but when I think of them saying fall 2024 and having a full 15-minute blowout coming soon, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That just, for some reason, that feels closer to me. Am I crazy?
No, of the rationale of the two, that they've narrowed it down more than what they have.
Yeah.
It's getting more coverage, as you said in the follow-up showcase, so which I didn't know about until you'd mentioned it. So, it makes sense that maybe it slips in this year. But yeah, I mean, as well, they need to slip it in this year. Do you really want that going toe-to-toe GTA being an open world
Yeah.
game?
Another open world game.
I would it of the two, I would rather you like from a realistic standpoint, it makes sense that you would rather put it out underbaked a little bit and patch it and be as far away from that product as possible than be within a 6 month window before or after that release. Like,
yeah. Well, and you definitely, just in terms of games that are time sinks, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to
you
be
tried
near
you tried to get into Inquisition and you couldn't because of the time state, like, right?
that open
It's
world's
yeah,
brutal, in my opinion. Like,
yeah.
I understand from a lore perspective, but yeah, we'll dive into that next week on the show because we'll have a lot more to talk about with Dragon Age with the full gameplay. Um, Avowed, man, this is same thing. No specific release date, but
Yeah.
got a quick little sizzle reel trailer. I'm thinking they're just gonna do a big, like, you know how they do the developer directs? I think they'll do another one of those, really highlighting the games, like going a little bit more in depth, providing release dates. I think they'll do that for
Ooh.
Avowed and Indiana Jones.
You know what would make sense? A late developer direct and just have them launch immediately
Ooh,
and just start firing them out.
yeah,
At least for one of them titles that are from inside Xbox. So either an indie, an Avowed, and just fire it out in like October or something, just
yeah.
before the Game Awards. Because you want one of these to at least have the chance of getting nominated, like surely. Because the thing is when they launch in December, the cutoff window is already there, right? So they
Yep,
can't be
November.
nominated. No December games ever carried enough hype through to the next year to ever be remembered
Nope.
and to be in contention because you have such heavy hitters in that year and you have recency bias up against it. So they
Yeah.
need to get one of these out by October.
Other than Smash in 2018 carrying over to 2019, and that's fucking Nintendo, and that's
Yeah,
Smash,
they're,
dude.
they're delusional, them fans.
So I
That's
do think
Nintendo crazies.
I do think it's likely that one of these two games slip, but
Yeah, for
we
sure.
did we did get some good environmental variety with the shot, some good combat, sequences shown off here. Saying like forge your path, choose your destiny, all that good shit that you want to see in an RPG where it's pretty much telling you, hey, you're gonna have total agency over the narrative. That's the most important thing with Avowed for
Yeah,
me.
has the foundation of like free voices whispering like big. I'm sure they're like the big choices because you had the one of the factions talking, and then it flipped over to like the more mystical. So clearly the gods are still kicking about, so they're still there, which is awesome to know
Yeah,
because that answers a few questions already as to what the hell happened. So more for it.
yeah. Um, all right. And now we go on to our next title, which is Atomfall.
Okay, I'm
And
glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't skip over this. I was worried that you might.
hey, and by the way, if there is anything I do skip over, make sure to shout that out because I was trying to.
Um, the only
What?
thing before this that I felt probably deserved a little bit like of a shout was, dude, that Microsoft Flight Sim game. Like, I
Yeah.
know they're gimmicky and stuff, but you're telling me it has careers in there now? Like, the thing I wrote down was I dipped into that Microsoft Flight Sim that came out on Xbox, but it's the type of thing that unless you're fully invested and maybe a pilot, like in real life, it's the type of thing that you dip into for like 45 minutes and like fly over your house and you're like, huh, that's my house. And then you just that's it. It's 100 and like something gigabytes and you uninstall it and you never think about it again.
Yeah.
This has like career paths and stuff where it's like, play as like a VIPs, like the a jet flyer thing, pilot to take them places and do like emergency response unit stuff, do this. It's just like if it has like actual substance to it, like that's really cool. And it's got me pretty hyped. And that uh drops November 19th, day one Game Pass on PC.
Yeah, that's a great shout out. I also the Diablo the cinematic trailer looked fucking excellent and
Vessel of Hatred, I think, is what it
yeah.
was called, launching October 8th.
Yeah. There was some other good stuff in there that I didn't put in here. But yeah, Atomfall, dude, looks like a really solid double A first person shooter. Killing some like zombie alien hybrid creatures. I when I first saw it, I thought it was Stalker, but you know,
No,
that's what I was about to
no.
say. When you
When
see the
I
comparison,
when I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's just a British version of Atomic Heart. That is it. That is it. Like it oozes a little bit of that same themes of Atomic Heart, but in set in like Britain, maybe like it kind of looks like 1940s, and they've kind of like steampunked up a little bit with like the robots and stuff, maybe.
yeah.
So, but it looks really cool, interesting. And
And
yeah, hopefully it can land a little bit better than Atomic Heart, not be as ambitious and just stay in its
miss,
lane.
yeah. Don't miss the mark, man. Stay in your lane. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Saw some stealth focus with the lady, some visceral, crunchy combat with the fella. Looks wonderful. I mean, seeing the dynamic weather, the destructive environments. That we don't need you and I are so fucking sold up and down the river, twice
Yeah,
circled back. Like we don't need to see anything more on this game, but it did look really, really good, and it was nice to see. I think this is the first gameplay trailer.
I will heap praise on it with two things. One, like a cool factor. Dude, the hidden blade is a Tanto. That's fucking cool as shit. Like, I like that design. And with them being two characters that can usually fall into like a gimmick thing of like you're just choosing male, female. This is not the case. Like, the female character is pure stealth, essentially. And with Yasuke being the hulking guy that he is, dude, the guy is a fucking unit. And you see that when he's in combat, he is towering over the other people, and he's like his hits are crunchy, kinetic, and just yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
It's they kind of tried that with Syndicate, but didn't go fully in on the two characters. They did play a little bit differently, but they did feel very, very samey. This does they look like they play like two completely different play styles, and that is exactly what we need, especially if you're saying that this isn't you're choosing them at the beginning and then that's it. Like you're jumping between these. So this is gonna if it has anywhere near the similar amount of time to Valhalla in playtime, which I don't think it does, but even if it did, that is the perfect way to shift up interest because you're keeping
Yeah.
it fresh. 10 hours in, switch character. 10 hours in, switch character.
Yeah. And I mean, both styles of combat look legitimately fucking fun. So it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it's going to be one of those things where you dread playing as one character. And
No.
yeah. So fucking awesome, man. And then going on to the game we just mentioned, Stalker 2. Loon, what are you thinking? I thought it looked really, really strong. That tornado was one of the coolest things I saw in the entire showcase. I love how games are starting to implement these more natural weather conditions.
Yeah, I mean they had them types of things in like the 2000 and whatever it was 7 game.
Oh, really?
Like that, yeah, it's why it ran like shit. It had them kind of like these anomalies and stuff, but obviously it's a lot better looking and a lot more complex in these games. But the first showing where they showed it, whenever it was when it first got that a little snippet of gameplay, like the gunplay looked rough, then it looks so much cleaner now. And this is the benefit of leaving it in the oven a little bit longer, is that them guns look like they have a little bit more kick. They look more realistic, and that's what Stalker really tries to emulate, is give you these fantastical and like weird sci-fi environments inside the real world and try and base it in reality if these things were happening. And it really looks clean. Finally, Metro has a worthy rival because
Right.
Stalker, as good as it is in its original thing, Metro was the better looking game, the more cinematic game, the more story driven game, and stuff like that. This looks like it's finally going to give them some competition. So hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It looks rock solid. And to close out the show, we had Gears of War E-Day. So this is a prequel to
Yep.
Gears of War 1. Young Marcus Phoenix in the
Young
fight.
Dominic.
And young Dominic, you see Marcus with the clean shaving going
Mm,
on. It's it's just a CG trailer, but you don't need more than that. If people know what this is going to be, as
yep.
soon as you see it, you get hyped that it's, classic Gears of War back, and they're calling it Gears of War E-Day. So they brought back the name Gears of War, not just Gears.
Mhm.
Um, and I got a bunch of details that I'll go over real quick here, but I want to get your initial just gut reaction. What did you think?
Um, I mean, of the original like big first party titles, like I was never too hot on Halo. It took me so long to get into that series. It was Gears of War that moved me from when I came from PS2 to 360. And I remember my dad being like, "You can't play this. You're chainsawing people in half." Like I remember him saying that, and I was like looking out the corner of my eye, like, hmm, interesting. Like that whole thing of, don't let your kid play GTA because they get up to like thing. Yeah, that was probably because I didn't have that kind of like maniacal mindset when I played GTA. I was very dopey. When I
Yeah.
had that in my hands for the first time, that was probably the first chaotic evil things I've experienced in my life. And no, it's really cool because you had they kind of tried this already, but they didn't go like full in because it had Judgment Day, which was like a prequel kind of thing where it focused on what the hell's his name? Baird, I think his name was
Yep.
Baird, and showed his like backstory and stuff. But they've done so many books and comics that have shown like the backstory of it, and they've never done a game. So it's yeah, they had a story going with Gears 5, but I don't think anybody cared. To be 100% honest, like I can't even remember his son's name, but he was just that there was a lack of creativity there. It was like you're a carbon copy of Marcus, you've done a carbon copy of Dominic, and then the female character, whatever her name was, Kate, I believe, and it just lacked direction because they flip-flopped between chapters of to what their personality and motives were. It was some of the messiest writing I've ever seen, where they didn't stick to what their character should have been. They then were like, "Oh, I'm strong. Now I'm like weak-minded. I'm doubting myself," and it was just that on repeat. So it's good because we know what Marcus is like. He's just screaming all the time and scratch one, grow up. Just you know, gruff guy, and that's what we need. Just it sounds really silly, but we just need something where it requires no brain cells. Like
Yeah.
that is it. Like I don't understand why you overthink these things. Like it's the reason Xbox was known as the bro shooter.
Yeah. Frat box.
Just
Yeah.
just go back to your roots, man. I
It,
don't need every experience to be Hellblade
right.
where it's fucking tormenting me and fucking making me
Yeah.
slow walk everywhere. My God,
Just, yeah.
just let me blow someone apart and chainsaw them in half. Is that too much to ask, Xbox? Jeez.
Yeah. Let's have fun, man. Absolutely. So I got this tweet pulled up from Shinobi602. It says Gears of War E-Day details, not a spin-off, but a new entry in the mainline Gears of War saga. The Coalition is content with the stories told in Gears 4 and 5 and isn't abandoning them, but making this game was an opportunity that felt too good to miss. The team is looking to recreate and improve on the series' classic cover shooting, revisiting the tone of older Gears with truly next-gen tech. Takes place 14 years before the first game, tackling how an ill-prepared Sarah responds to a surprise Locust invasion. Very intentional in recasting the Locusts not simply as foes, but as living nightmares. Design team prioritized redefining the Locust drone, which had become simple fodder as the
Yep.
series progressed, into something fearsome, physically intimidating, and utterly brutal. The fear of encountering the Locust for the first time is central to the game. Desperation as Marcus fights a drone for the first time, hints that the origin of the Lancer, chainsaw, etc., will be part of the story. The narrative follows the early stages of Marcus and Dom's brotherhood, bonding over the loss of Dom's older brother, Carlos, and over 100 times more environment and character details than Gears 5. Hardware, ray trace lighting, reflections and shadows, next gen destruction and gore, and cutting edge animation technology.
Hell yeah. Sign me up.
Absolutely.
I don't need any more.
Yeah, that is all I need to hear.
And I like the direction of not making them fodder,
yeah,
especially for this entry. Like in the later entries, sure, maybe it makes more sense. You're more used to this, but it's always kind of baffled me that they never did this with Halo. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I've always had this as like a thought in the back of my mind. Why was there never a Halo game in the vein of an Alien Isolation, where it's like an entire like space cruiser or a space station being terrorized by an elite? They've never seen an elite before it can turn invisible. Like it just seemed like the perfect match made in heaven. And you're just playing as like some normal human instead of Chief, where you have no chance in hell of fighting against that. So if there's going to be a lot of struggling against them in this E-Day thing, I think that's going to be really cool, a really cool, interesting dynamic because he gets his day rocked in that trailer. Like, gets absolutely bodied,
yeah.
thrown around
So,
like a rag doll.
so dude, that was the show. Um, fucking excellent. 30 games revealed, 18 coming to Game Pass day one, 17 first party games revealed. Like tremendous,
Mm.
genuinely fucking a tremendous, tremendous show. So for me, that's a solid A, like easily a solid A. If we had release dates for Avowed or at least for one of them, I think that would have elevated it a little bit more. If we saw Fable gameplay, that would have elevated it quite a bit more. So those minor nitpicks, that would be my only critique. But let's hit game or go ahead. I think you had something to say.
Dude, where was the handheld rumored? Are you
Yeah,
telling the fucking digital only Series X? Are you out of your mind, guys? How out of touch are you? Get that
yeah,
shit out of here. And then something about the Series S, I don't even know what it was they mentioned because I'd completely shut off by that point.
I did too.
I was like, what? Because then
Yeah,
they were like, yeah, and here's some hardware. And I was like, oh, yeah,
yeah.
cherry on top. That would put it in a 10 out of 10 showcase. And then she said them things, and I was like,
Wah, wah, wah.
what? Are you okay?
Yeah, as
Yeah,
soon
that
as
was
they
it.
started talking about all digital series, I was like, "Ah, don't give a shit." I pretty much tuned that completely out. So yeah, that's a
Oh,
little bit of a knock as
and
well.
a little bit unfortunate with her wording. I guess we should probably saying that this is our vision, therefore really pushing it in that digital only is their vision. So being like, this is our vision moving forward, and it's like, should go to an optician's then, woman. Jesus Christ. I hope that's
Yeah.
not the case.
I hate to I know that you're a collector of Xbox goods and I don't want to shit on that, but to me it's like always been clear that that's definitely their
Yeah,
vision,
no,
you know.
yeah, for
As soon
sure.
as they baked in that DRM shit with like the even the Xbox One, had a lot of that shit baked into it where it's been clear that they want less ownership for the player. But regardless, to me, that didn't really lessen anything because I already expected that from Xbox. In terms of the actual content here, the games, incredible. Absolutely, absolutely incredible. There were a couple no shows that I found interesting. Contraband and Double Fine. No shows. I'm really curious what Double Fine is working on. I know Contraband just had a bunch of layoffs. And then also Clockwork Revolution. That's probably my most anticipated first party Xbox game in development. That was a no show as well, which I understand. That game looks crazy ambitious. So take your time to
Yeah.
cook on that one. Um, but yeah, there were a couple no shows. Blade, Outer Wilds 2, like you said, no handheld, nothing new from Fallout other than 76. So there were a couple things that notable no shows, but nothing that
Yeah,
really takes the show down at all.
in their defense, like 30 titles, man. And it touches upon literally every genre other than CRPG. Um, you've got strategy in there, you've got simulation in there, RPGs, Souls likes, like everything you could possibly want. They even
New
had a few
IP.
live service games, new IP. It's yeah. Of course we'd want to see them other things, but it's yeah. There's so much in there. In my mindset, when if I'm looking at it through their lens, why add more greatness? Save that for a different showcase. Because if
Yep.
you pump it all into this showcase and yeah, you make it the greatest showcase ever, you have nothing really to wow people and show
Next year.
next time.
That's
So
true.
just sit on a few things and yeah. Let's hope that this is their new age moving forward and this is the type of software that we can expect from this caliber because it's been so low for so long and been so inconsistent. Like this is something to finally get excited about.
Have been saying, and then like, I know people will disagree with me, but I thought 2023 was the first year of the snowball really starting to roll downhill. And I know Redfall, sure. I know some people didn't like Starfield, but for me, I fucking love Starfield. I loved Hi-Fi Rush. And then we roll straight on into Avowed, Indiana Jones, Hellblade 2. Maybe, yeah, sure, Hellblade 2 didn't click with me 100%. But like, that at the same time, like I don't look at Hellblade 2 as a horrible video game. I look at it as a horrible video game for me, like something I don't want to play. And not even horrible, something that I just don't really vibe with. But something that is of no doubt at a high quality bar for people who are looking for an experience like that. And so, like, I do genuinely think that that snowball is starting to pick up steam, and maybe 2025 is that year where it's just like, what the fuck, man? Because you're talking about Fable, you're talking about Perfect Dark potentially, you're talking about Clockwork Revolution potentially, you're talking about, Blade on the horizon soon. There's a lot of stuff that looks like it could be lining up for that 2025 2026 timeline. And 2024 looks strong as well already. So Avowed and Indiana Jones, if they close off the year, and even if one of them slips, you know, it's still a pretty strong year. So it does seem to me that they're getting their shit together. Granted, whenever you see a studio as beloved and critically acclaimed and quote unquote successful as Hi-Fi Rush getting shuttered, then it makes you start to doubt, like, okay, what if Compulsion? What if South of Midnight doesn't do well? It starts to make you worry about those things. Hopefully, they'll keep their first party like Xbox studios intact. And maybe that was just a Bethesda issue. But once again, I'm not going to sit here and really bring all of that energy into this because we're talking about the
No, I think if anything, it deserves reevaluation because it kind of makes a little bit more sense now. Like the Redfall team, like I'm sorry, I get it. You know, you were brought in to the idea and concept was for them to make Dishonored-esque games, and that whole Redfall thing that is unfortunate of the two. The the Tango thing, like the majority of them packed up and left already. Like
they're saying that's not true though. The one of the leads at the studio said that that's not true. It was just a rumor that Shinji took a lot of the staff. He said pretty much everybody was still at the studio.
I don't know. I find that hard to believe. If he's been able to go and make like get his studio up and running that quickly, and get all them pieces in place, you need to have a lot of talent there and to get that ball rolling. Because we saw the same thing with the Suicide Squad thing, where you got all the good quote unquote talent and then leave them with a train wreck. Now they didn't leave them with a train wreck with Hi-Fi Rush, but I'm sure they're scrambling to try and replace a lot of talent there as well.
Yeah, we all we know is what's been talked about. We don't have any inside information into the
So
goings on. But damn solid show, man. What would you say is your overall game of the showcase?
that's so difficult, even with me. I don't know. I think I don't think I have an overall. Like they're all so strong. It's nice to see Dragon Age finally. South of Midnight looked really clean. If I'm going off of, because we knew either like whisperings that some of this stuff existed, like Doom, so it kind of takes the wind out the sails. Because if I would have seen that like completely blind, no knowledge and stuff, I'd have been like, hell yeah, give me that.
Yeah,
And being 100% honest, dude, the Expedition 33 game, like it genuinely feels like that is everything I would want. It looks like them embracing like the second coming of like JRPGs, where they took a crack at it in the 360, kind of failed, and now they're looking at it now that it's being a lot more embraced as a genre across all platforms now. And it's like, fuck it, we'll go again. We've put Persona games and Yakuza games on the Game Pass, and they're hitting the numbers that they've never hit before. Like, not saying that Xbox is solely single-handedly responsible for that, because obviously they were gaining traction on PlayStation, but they've severely helped them because it's just exposure, free exposure, Game Pass. So you just go in and it's spawned a plethora of new fans.
totally. Yeah, that
So
game looked
probably
fuck.
for me, yeah.
Yeah, that shit looked absolutely excellent. For me, I already said earlier, obviously Perfect Dark by a mile. I thought that looked
Mm.
ridiculous, dude. I can't believe Crystal
I also
Dynamics.
didn't want to choose the same one. Try and like it does. It looks fucking incredible, man. It really does.
So that what a shot, like just such a shot. That is so crazy. And we'll get into our ranking and all that, do some more E3 coverage, not E3 coverage, whatever the hell you want to call this. Also, a couple things. No shadow drop, and also no
No, no,
um
no, no, no. You could argue the Creation Club is a shadow drop. I'll
sure,
give them
sure.
that. That's a pretty big yeah.
What
I'm
about
not grasping at straws.
what about any no Activision Blizzard content coming to Game Pass? That was kind of weird that none of
Oh
that was
my God,
announced.
I wrote down, dude, when they were showing the whole fucking like build up of World of Warcraft. I was
Right.
like, no fucking way, guys, no
Yeah.
way. I was like, shit. I put holy shit, do it. Give me WoW. And then it was like the 26th of the 8th, 2024. And I was like, yes. And it was like PC.
PC.
I was like, you fucking serious?
You take
That's
notes
my
this.
that's my worry when they were acquiring Blizzard and stuff like that, is that when they bring them to the Xbox showcase, it gives us nothing on Xbox. There's no value. Like, I'm sorry, I get it. It's probably, they'll probably put like stuff into PC Game Pass and stuff, but that offers me no value and hinders excitement of seeing that kind of their name being on the list in follow-up showcases, because then it's
I
like, okay,
agree.
you're offering me nothing if that's the case.
Yeah. You take notes the same way I do in the moment. Like I'll just
Yeah.
say I'll put down counter crunchy elbow drop like just little fucking little words that try to
Dude,
capture the feeling that I
the
have in the moment.
fucking the Fallout 76 thing where it was like play as a ghoul. I was like, lol, banking on the love of the TV show.
Yeah, I should have shouted that out because that was
It's
notable. I
their
just
first map expansion, so that's
yeah
a big thing. And yeah, first time I think ever being able to play as a ghoul in Fallout. And
yeah
it's banking on like my God, he's such a strong character, strong rooting character, so lovable, like a
yeah
lovable rogue.
yeah.
So hell yeah.
It was just such a packed showcase that I tried to cut as much as I could. That way we could get in and out of here and then an hour and 20 minutes or so here. But dude. What a fucking show. And obviously, Loon, you and I will catch up. We will be recording Friday and we will have a lot more to say about all of this shit. I think that's probably going to be, I can almost guarantee you that's going to be our longest show that we've done to date because I think we're going to be seeing a lot of preview information rolled out, much more coverage across the board for all of these games. So and then we already have a sheet that we're preparing of stuff to talk about. So stay tuned. This is only the beginning of the storm of coverage that we will get regarding a lot of these games. And also we'll be doing our E3 rankings or not E3 rankings, going over all the biggest games, ranking them in our hype meter. And so yeah, stay tuned for all that. Loon, do you have any parting words, anything else you wanted to shout out? Anything like that before we get out of the good people's hair?
No, it's just what an incredible showcase, and hopefully this is, like you said, the snowball beginning to roll
Yeah,
for them.
totally, man. And I genuinely do believe it is. I hope that they can commit to a vision, exclusive content, Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass, and we'll see how it pans out in a couple years. But my good people, I appreciate y'all for stopping by. Hit us in the comments down below. Anything I missed out on there, like, hey, that shit looked really good. There was also a new IP that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. It was really fucking cute, kind of like a farming style game.
Oh,
If you don't have it, it's
uh,
no, you're yep.
Winterboro.
There we go. It looked really,
Survival
really cute.
game kind of looked like a mixture for me between Grounded and Don't Starve kind of
Yeah.
thing, like a little bit of mixture.
Yeah, yeah, it looked cute. And there were some other games that looked good that I just, once again, such a packed show. Didn't want this to be 3 hours. So we will get out of your hair here and quit the rambling, and we'll save all the rambling for next week as we dive deep into much, much more. Subscribe, like, stay tuned, and we shall see you good people on the other side. Goodbye.
See you later.